a legend of one man who persuaded his friends to watch every Godzilla movie ever made. This world is on the brink of destruction. We need you now, Godzillavangelists! Godzillavangelists, a Geek Stew Network podcast, produced and hosted by Ryan Sargent, featuring Sam Schlenker and Joanna Brodecki. Welcome to Godzillavangelists. I'm Ryan. I'm here as always with my co-hosts Sam and Joanna. And
hey.
I hope I hope this isn't your first show, because it's time for one of my infamously terrible cold opens.
Yeah.
Hey guys.
Hello, Ryan.
Oh, that was for us. I thought you were speaking to the audience, maybe.
No, that was a cue.
Oh, hi. Hey, Ryan. How's it going?
Hey guys, I just had a wacky thought.
What?
You know the 1998 Pixar movie, A Bug's Life?
I love that movie.
What if the big bug Megaguirus from this movie was in A Bug's Life?
Gross. Get it out.
I think that would really add something.
Listen, Megaguirus doesn't have any jokes, I don't think. And so I think then, she wouldn't really fit with the vibe.
Well, my question is, isn't A Bug's Life like a class or race allegory? Like the grasshoppers kind of walk all over all the other bugs, right? So
right, it's like a class allegory.
Yeah, so Megaguirus isn't a grasshopper and would thus be like the head of the uprising. Probably the hero.
Wow.
Oh, or because she's the queen, she would be like the billionaire level. Like the grasshoppers are the millionaire upper class. Megaguirus is the billionaire upper class.
A lot of options for this plot. I'm liking it.
The scale of that movie would be crazy because those bugs in A Bug's Life are bug-sized. And Megaguirus is enormous. I mean, we're talking like insane scale. You can't even see the bugs in the shots of Megaguirus. They're so
That's
so small.
true. She wouldn't even notice they existed, actually,
No.
now that I think about it.
That was great.
Well, another wonderful cold open here on Godzilla
Come and gone so
Evangelists.
soon.
I'm happy to have here our guest for the day, a filmmaker and an old pal of mine, Zach Busch. Welcome to the show.
Glad to be here. I'm truly honored.
I'm honored that you bestowed your presence upon us. I have to ask this question of you, as I do all our guests. What was your giant monster experience up to now? Before this movie, what did you know and feel about Godzilla and other giant creatures?
So, I remember when I was growing up seeing the King Kong reboot with Jack Black. I saw the Godzilla reboot with Bryan Cranston and Pacific Rim. I've seen the first Pacific Rim. So like I had very limited experience. I'd seen clips from Godzilla, but this was my first like real Godzilla movie. My first Japanese Godzilla movie. And I had a good time.
Well, I'm glad for that. Yeah, you kind of saw like the three biggest monster movies of all time. Although, as someone going to film school, I'm surprised no one has made you watch the original King Kong yet.
Yeah, I'm surprised too. I feel like that's too mainstream for them or something.
Probably.
This was a very arty film school. They specifically only show they show Pulgasari, and that's the only one.
Just everyday Pulgasari.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And when it's all about like the real indie stuff, the auteur stuff, it's like a little much.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's great, but like in class, like the movies they reference, everyone's like, that movie changed my life. And I'm like, I have literally never heard of this movie, this director. I don't know what you're talking about. So I would love to talk about Godzilla for a change. And that's what we're doing now. This was refreshing. This was unlike any movie I've been forced to watch at school.
Yes. So, Godzilla versus Megaguirus. As we mentioned last time, and no one's corrected me yet, so I think this is true. This was part of sort of a contest where 3 different filmmaking teams would get to put their stamp on the series, basically do their own reboot, their own continuity, and then the most successful of them would get to be the template for Godzilla movies going forward. And so this time, director Masaki Tezuka was up to bat, working closely alongside writer Wataru Mimura. They planned to take a highly nostalgic approach with a focus on flashy technology and appealing to kids without falling into the level of silliness that the 1970s Godzilla movies did.
That's where they made a mistake. But we can talk more on that further.
I didn't notice any silliness.
Yeah, not at all. Believe it or not, they do get sillier, though.
I'm kidding. It was pretty silly.
There's not a whole lot of other info out there about Megaguirus that's easily accessible, so I don't know much.
We know that she is the souped-up version of regular Gearus. We know that.
There's a Gearus?
Yeah, yes, that's a fact.
She was given big Pokemon vibes to me. Knowing, I don't know much about Pokemon, but those transformations were giving me huge Pokemon vibes.
You're not wrong. There are at least 2 Pokemon that look very similar to Megaguirus. But it did pretty poorly at the box office, and opinions from fans and critics pretty much fell into the category of meh. And eventually, it debuted in the US when TriStar put it out on DVD in 2004.
Oh, so this was a straight to DVD. That makes sense.
It
That's
was.
the vibe it gives. Yeah.
So with that, let us dive into the synopsis. From the very first attack in 1954, humanity has no way to stop Godzilla. Realizing that he is attracted to nuclear energy, the country bans it in 1966.
No more nukes. Ah.
Yeah, that's definitely what people in Japan in the 1960s sounded like.
Yeah, see? Take those nukes elsewhere.
The dub sounds just like that, for sure.
However, Godzilla returns in 1996 due to a leak at a plasma energy plant.
Meh.
Thank you.
So they got rid of the nuclear energy and brought back plasma energy. That seems to be a fair trade-off for avoiding Godzilla.
You would
You'd
think so, but he likes the energy leaks.
Oh, man.
During the
I'm so sorry to bring in jokes during the synopsis. I know it's a bit mono, but do you know who didn't work on that plasma energy plant? Is the lead woman from the previous movie.
last time, because she knows nothing about plasma.
She knows nothing about plasma. So we know it's a different continuity.
Right. That's the first giveaway.
Yeah.
This is not story connected to the movie that came right before it. I wasn't sure, actually.
No.
Yeah.
No. It's not connected to any of them.
There was some question about that, but we know, thanks to the non-existence of Plasma Lady, that it can't be the same continuity.
Hopefully you listen to our Godzilla 2000 show. Anyway, during the attack, soldier Kuriko Sujimori is saved by her commanding officer, who dies in the process.
Ah! That's her
him getting
shooting
crushed.
that bazooka at the end.
Yeah.
I thought I was doing him getting crushed, but it was okay.
You were. No, we're both doing it together.
Yeah, they made the same sound doing 2 very different things.
Yeah.
In 2001, plasma energy is also now banned, and Kariko is a major in the Godzilla tracking G-Graspers organization.
Terrible name. Awful fucking task force name. Worst I've heard.
The first time they said it aloud, I was just like, grasping what does that mean?
It sounds unsavory.
It's so
Grasping
bad.
Godzilla.
Yeah, no, it's Godzilla's got a real. He's just showing up to file a complaint with HR.
And who can blame him? He recruits a brilliant but immature engineer named Hajime Kudo to help in the program.
I love baseball.
He sure does. And he loves some other things we'll get to later. He provides the finishing touches on a black hole gun developed by Professor Yoshizawa. G-Graspers tests the gun, named Dimension Tide, in a forest outside Tokyo.
Pretty cool name, to be honest.
I love the name. It's so blankly goofy. It's like what an 8-year-old would call a cool name for it, which is the perfect thing for this movie.
Can I just say, I really liked how in the scene right before that, when they're explaining the black hole gun, she says, well, it's still in the research phase. And then in the next scene, they're actually testing it. So it feels like they made the progress really quickly. Either that or they don't really know what research
They move
is.
fast.
But they must, because they were able to make something we've never been able to make, a black hole. So they must be doing something right.
That and they're both very willing to test making an unfinished black hole, and also one that has been unproven. 2 times they're like, you know what? We'll fire out a black hole that may or may not be controllable. We're just going to kind of take a gamble here. And I like it. The G-Graspers fly by the seat of their pants.
Yeah, doesn't G-Grasper sound a tiny bit like grasshopper, tying back to...
A Bug's Life.
Exactly.
Is this a
Whoa.
coincidence, or have we tapped into
Absolutely
something here?
not.
No,
There's no
Definitely
way.
It can't be.
Anyway, the Dimension Tide temporarily opens a wormhole to the past. Young boy Jun Hayasaka witnesses the test and later comes back to visit the site, finding an insect's egg case. He takes it home but becomes frightened of it and dumps it in a sewer. The egg case hatches into hundreds of giant ancient Megaguirus who begin to prey on humans and flood the city. Meanwhile, Godzilla becomes active again, and the G-Graspers track him to a nearby island where they plan to get him with Dimension Tide. Unfortunately, the plan is disrupted by an attack by the Megaguirus, who sap Godzilla of nuclear energy. While Godzilla kills most of the insects, the survivors inject the energy into an underwater cocoon. It hatches into the massive queen dragonfly, Megaguirus. Her high-frequency wing beats damage signals throughout the country, sending Dimension Tide out of orbit.
I gotta say, this is actually really educational because some of this flew over my head, some of these plot details, and I must have just... It's very advanced stuff. So maybe it was my lack of physics knowledge or something. But this is very clarifying.
No, again, I've seen 102 of these, and I always have to read the Wikipedia page 4 times right before we record, no matter what, still to make sure I get it.
Also, speaking of lack of physics knowledge, I know very little about physics, but I do know that this movie has no understanding of how orbit works whatsoever. Like, it's not even close.
No. It doesn't even care.
No.
Which makes me
It doesn't care one scene to the
It
other.
doesn't even pretend.
I mean, like, it sounds like they're simultaneously going to rip him into a million pieces with the black hole, or suck him whole into the black hole. It's really not clear, and they show, like, both happening.
Yeah.
So are they destroying him or just imprisoning him? Apparently, both.
They need more research to figure that out. That's the issue.
Yeah.
That's what they were waiting to find out.
More time with the baseball guy.
Godzilla and Megaguirus battle in Tokyo, while Kariko discovers that a secret plasma energy plant still exists. Godzilla eventually defeats his foe, and Kariko risks her life to allow the damaged dimension tide to lock onto Godzilla. He vanishes when the black hole collides with his heat ray, leaving humanity apparently safe. Weeks later, though, Kariko once again asks Kudo for help, as she has detected Godzilla-like seismic activity.
Ooh.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, ba-da-da. Oh no, what's gonna happen next?
That is it, because that is how the movie
Yay.
ends.
Oh yeah, that is wild ending. Do not know why they chose.
I was gonna save this, but I won't, because it is my biggest thought on the whole movie. Is the worst ending of a movie I might have ever seen. I can't think of a worse decision. I'm serious. Like, it makes no sense. What were they thinking?
With like the breaking the arm, like, oh, sorry.
Yeah, she just goes. It's like she does a joke. It's like a little cutesy joke where she like nudges his broken arm, and he's like, "Oh, it's broken." She goes, "Ha ha!" And then they just freeze frame on a close up of her, and then credits start rolling. It's like oh my god! I had to like rewind it again.
There's a lot of freeze frames of her, and like a lot of close up shots of just her throughout the movie. So I was like, it felt like it came full circle when like the credits start rolling over this person's face.
I guess so.
They were trying to build an emotional arc without actually doing any of the work. They were like, look, if we put a lot of close-ups in, then we'll know she's the main character and we'll have an arc.
Was she in the previous ones?
No, there was no arc. There was nothing.
No, I'm just asking because I haven't seen the one before this.
Oh no, just in this movie. I mean, there's no connection. This is just. But there's no grand tradition of ending on inappropriate freeze frames either. I mean, that's crazy. I'm baffled by it. I could go on for an hour on just that freeze frame, and I won't. It will. It's so like someone thought that was a good idea, and it really. I mean, like, I don't know. It's not a freeze frame and like a triumphant moment where like, you know. No, it's like a freeze frame of her like reacting to just like a silly little joke, and that has nothing to do with any. It's all right. I gotta cool off for a second.
You're right though. It's not a big punchline. It's not like sweet and romantic. It's not triumphant. It just ends with a big huh. I guess they felt the need to explain that people would be punished for the plasma lab conspiracy that got people killed, but you can still tie that into a better scene. You can still come up with some kind of emotional climax for the characters. And instead they were just like, hey, Godzilla might not be gone. Nudge. Ow. The freeze frame.
It was such a bad choice that like, it must have been on purpose. Like that, it made so little sense that I felt like there must have been some editor who was like, yeah, this makes no sense. It almost felt like an anti-joke.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't want to get too much into the editing of this movie, but it's not its strong suit. I didn't think, and that was like the cherry on top for sure.
Well, shall we talk about the characters such as they are?
Yes.
I mean, is there even?
Hey, there weren't too many.
Were they? You know, there weren't that many, but none of them had anything going on.
It looks like I'm back on the defensive foot again, because not to spoil it, but I think you guys are being way too hard.
What? Ryan, get out of town.
Look, I'm not going to pretend this is a masterpiece of characterization, but when we talk about Kariko, she does have sort of a very tiny arc. She develops a need. The need is complicated, and she meets it. But
she has nothing else to her besides that dog tag. It's like, hey guys, you remember the dog tag? Oh, here's the dog tag. Hey guys, you see that dog tag? Hey, she's going still because of that dog tag from her boss. Do you guys remember that guy that died at the beginning? And that's it. There's like nothing else.
Listen, I know I'm grading on a curve, but it is technically still a complete arc.
No. I'm with Ryan on this, actually. I would just argue that the characters are the least of this movie's problems. So I'm with him. Like, they're not just faces, which is what they are about, 60% of the time. They're like faces where I also kind of go, oh, that's the one who had this happen to them, which is still, that's more than a face. So you're right. I guess I'm with Ryan on this. Big curve, grading on the curviest of curves.
No. But you need to be with me on it in that they might not be the worst part, but they're so neutral that they can't possibly be considered good. Like you can't give them positive points.
I think I'm with both of you because I agree that they're not good, but this curve is so steep. I mean, it's it's barely even a curve. It looks just like a vertical line. The curve is so steep, So I mean, you're both right. I just want to call out though the introduction to our main guy, whose name I've already forgotten, but our inventor engineer, baseball engineer. One of the funniest and strangest character introductions, and backing up. Yep. I suppose you could argue that the symmetry at the end of the beginning is the graspers hopping into his shop and recruiting him, and then at the end of the movie they show up and recruit him again. I suppose that's good symmetry. That's cool. That's cool. So there's a mild plus in the favor of this movie's writing. The first time they show up, he's doing what seems to be a magic trick for some children, where he puts a bunch of little individual food ingredients under a bowl and shakes it up and then removes the bowl, and they've all been assembled and cooked, and the kids are all amazed. And then the head grasper goes, no, he's cheating. Look, he has a bunch of awesome tiny robots that did all of that. And the kids are like, oh, what a fucking gypped. Like that's not cool, and leave. And what, have you ever seen a kid before? They'd be way more impressed by tiny robots that cook food than by a guy's magic trick.
It made a spoonful of curry rice. Like, what? How
Forget
are they not?
Kids. The lie was better than the truth.
This
right. Guy has invented one of the most amazing kitchen appliances of all time.
That's right. Because this is ultimately a kids movie. We saw from about 97 to 2004, every American kids movie had a character who had a food-making robot in their house, and because kids wanted that and wanted to see that. That's right. That's a trope, and this movie is these kids are going to be so disappointed. The illusion has been ruined.
Wait, Sam, really quick. Just to do a little deep dive on our film knowledge, in which kids' movies were kids obsessed with technology that made food?
Well, I'm going to start you out with Flubber. I'm thinking of like inventor, like kooky inventors, Spy Kids. Yeah.
Yeah. A kooky inventor.
Yeah. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, maybe a little older, but I'm grasping at this point.
Oh.
I'm grasping?
Same.
You're G grasping?
I'm G grasping.
I get your point. I hear you.
Let me just say, as a Godzilla outsider here, I agree with Ryan. I think that maybe you've become, very cynical watching so many of these, and I get that because I'm sure they're all kind of the same. I actually found it a lot more enjoyable, endearing than I expected. I'm not saying that to say it's good, but I'm a big believer in. I'm sorry, Ryan. I'm a big believer in when people love what they're making, that comes through, and when people have the passion, or it's the same with horror movies. If something is scary to the director, I think then that actually makes it scarier in some ways, and if they don't care, then you can feel that too, subliminally. And it felt like they had a lot of passion. I never knew any of the characters' names. And yeah, they're terrible, in terms of, but the actors, just kind of embraced it, and they seem to be having fun. They actually seemed to have a weird chemistry, which a lot of huge blockbusters today don't have. Just chemistry in the sense that they kind of bounce off each other. It's not totally wooden. Maybe I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt because I listened to I could only find the really terrible English dub. So maybe I'm just assuming that the acting sounds a lot better in the original Japanese. But I got a big kick out of how that one guy, there's that, I recognized him. He's kind of badass, 50-some-year-old Japanese dude who at the end turns out to be running the plasma energy, and the guy voicing him is like some 20-year-old white dude who just like has it's just like it sounds nothing like this guy should sound. The doctor or professor who like was that guy's like elementary school teacher or something. I think she had a pretty good voice in the dub, and she was one of the better actors, I thought.
Yeah, I agree.
But anyway, I'm not saying it's good, but it wasn't as it had a lot going for it, is all I'll say.
Thank you. I'm glad I have some backup. Yeah, the woman playing Professor Yoshizawa, she's a Godzilla series veteran. Her name's Yuriko Hoshi, and she played a reporter in the original Mothra vs. Godzilla and Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster. And she's so likable and good in that. So even though her character is not as like exciting in this, it's still cool to see her again. I don't know what's up with that haircut though.
No. I want to give a shout out to the side engineer character who got the dumb guy voice dub. I'm such a fan. Yeah, I love that decision. They're just I like to believe that he was actually a smart guy in the Japanese version, and they were like, we got to give a dumb voice to someone, because we have dumb voice Steve, the voice actor, who is really good at making people go duh, and then they had to give it to someone.
Were those the people who were trying to fix the flooding?
There were two, yes. Yeah, there was that, and one of the engineers also.
Yeah,
I think it might have been the same voice actor. Pulling double shift.
See, I have no idea who you're talking about, so I can guarantee you that in the Japanese version, he has a normal voice.
Yeah, it's one of the flood. It's one of the flood guys. You're right. Yeah, really mean.
Brian, can I just ask? Do you have like all these on DVD or something? Do you have like a giant closet of Godzilla movies?
I do. As of a couple months ago, I now own all of them on disc. So the collection is complete.
Take a moment for that on the pod. Congratulations, Ryan. Everyone write in to cheer him on. Thank you so much.
Are we talking 4K Blu-ray or just 720p DVD?
I had all over the place.
I actually have the Criterion release as well, because they came out when we were doing the early ones, and it seemed maybe more wise to just get the whole set than rent each one. So I can't even hate.
Wait, is there actually a Criterion Godzilla? Or I can't.
There sure is.
I was joking, but
they released the entire 15 movie series that they did from the 50s through the 70s.
Oh my god, that's great.
I'm glad that they've recognized it as culturally significant, and now I can always point. It's the greatest moment of my life. Just kidding.
I'd like to bring up the one character who, for me especially, just wasn't in it long enough. I was very leaned in whenever that little boy was on his adventure trying to deal with that egg on his own. Where did he go? I loved him. I have this old DSW bag I carry shit around in. It's like this big ass tired plastic bag, and I loved him using that bag to throw the egg in the sewer and running away. He was so cute. But then he was gone. Then he was like nothing. And
I was waiting for you to mention that, Jim.
yeah, he never came back, did he?
I like the woman who's like, it's not garbage collection day. She's just like yelling at him for like putting the garbage out.
She was one of the best parts of the movie. She committed. She was doing.
She might have doomed mankind.
Yeah. She might have.
Trash day. I loved her.
Because if the egg didn't go in the water, it might not have hatched, right?
Right.
So they could have just put it in a dump somewhere.
Yeah, they could have just cooked that egg with a tiny robot, and we would have been fine.
Oh, she's so right. Do you not support that he had a good journey? He had his little bugs on his bed, and then he met the bug, and then he, I thought he was great.
It's funny. I remembered him playing a much bigger role, but I guess I just latched onto him when I saw this as a kid.
Yeah.
I just want to say, like, he gets away with so much.
It's true.
And she's so casual when she's on that rock sitting next to him, across from him, and she's like, hey, man, it's not your fault, It's our fault. We happened when we did the thing, but happens. I was like, Like, why are we so casual about that?
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Is are we really surprised that the kid who plays around a black hole gun testing site vanishes for a long period of time? I'm just saying it's not a coincidence.
No, that's true.
Well, so he goes to this testing site, which has no security, no real fence. It's like this ultra secret military place. I'm just picturing, like, in the real world, like, you know, some kid breaks into this facility, they catch him, and all they say in terms of, like, secrecy, they're like, you have to tell no one, okay, please? And he's like, not even my parents. It's like, that already gives away, like, this kid does not understand secrecy. And then they're like, they let him go, and they're like, don't tell anyone. And he's like, if you're a woman, why are you fighting Godzilla? And I'm just like, kid, this is not the time to get political here and talk about, like this is a weird time to bring up, like, women, and, like, it was just like, this is a weird time to have this conversation. And then they just let him go. And there's so little security that same night he just walks back onto the same, like, ultra secret base with no concern. And then my favorite cut in the whole movie is to that scene where she's sitting on the rock, because it's like, he gets this egg, he causes it to hatch, the bugs start killing people, and it seems like, you know, immediately the graspers, the G graspers, figure out that it was a bug and that it came from the wormhole. And then instead of showing, like, the reaction of, like, the government or the scientists or something like, oh my God, we created a wormhole and let in, like, this ancient bug, instead it just cuts right to her telling the kid it's not a big deal. And that's their reaction to, like, this interdimensional crisis. And the editor was like, that's what we need to see next. Who cares if the world cares? Who cares if the military is concerned?
No one cares, because she's the head of G Grasper. Oh my God, it's so true. So bad.
This is a, like, masterclass on, you know, when you're watching a movie, you have certain expectations of what you want to see, or whose opinion of the thing you just saw you want to see the reaction. And the editing of this movie never gives you that. It is like, it's like it was edited by, like, AI or something. Like, it's crazy. So yeah, I had that thought the whole time. I was like, I can't tell you what any of these decisions are, because it's like everything is being told the weirdest way you could ever tell it.
I too also loved the cut when, to get him from his small town where they were doing these tests to Tokyo, they just cut him in an apartment, and his mom being like, man, I love it here. If your dad ever moves again, we're not going with him. And I love that was their way of just being like, let's get him to the big city and just make it quick, make it happen. Applauded them for that.
I will, again, I gotta play defender here. One thing I genuinely loved is him getting the egg, taking it home, and then immediately getting scared and regretting it in the way that kids do.
Yeah,
and
so cute.
Like, desperately trying to get rid of it in a panicky, very stupid way. I was like, yeah, that's a very real kid thing. Like, if that happened to you, you would probably dump it down the sewer too.
And just having, like, a leaky box that it was moving in was really cute.
Yeah.
The box just, like, the bottom just fell out, like, really easily on that box, right?
Yeah, because it got all wet, yeah.
Okay, so yay for the kid, 10 out of 10, we all are aligned.
I'm all for it.
Wait, so Joanna, there's a
Garbage Woman 11.
I'm surprised you don't love this movie. It has a kid, and it has, like, a kooky toy maker of sorts. You know, he makes little robots.
But as Ryan said in the intro, something about, like, maybe not as kooky as the other ones. That's where I think it fell off, because the only curve I'm ever grading on is presence of children and kookiness. We probably know this by this point. And this movie starts strong. Kid, yes, love it. He's literally walking alone, a young boy alone on the streets of Tokyo in the crowds. The shot of him alone walking across the bridge was hilarious, I thought. Great start. We got our baseball guy. It's all going well. But then it just dropped off, and none of the kookiness ramped up. They lost any jokes. We lost the boy. So that's why, like, 20% of the way into the film, anything I had to love about it left. And
that's interesting that you would say that, though, because I feel like it's very kooky. Like, the movie very intentionally doesn't care about being realistic. It indulges in all these, like, unrealistic pie in the sky ideas just because it's fun and cool.
I guess what I'm saying is I was missing the part where there's like two leading characters who have that kooky back and forth banter together. And, if the baseball guy had a friend, that could have maybe, if the girl was funny, we had some opportunities, but it never quite went for it.
I love how the professor is like his teacher from like when he was a kid, and he just recognizes her as his teacher, but now she's like running the most secret like military lab, and it's almost like a reverse Walter White situation where like she's like so overqualified as a teacher, and then she just realizes that and just goes to work on like the Godzilla Black Hole Task Force. I just think that's so great. And they're only like mildly surprised to see each other. They're like, this makes sense that we'd end up here. Like, he must have been a good student if he's here now.
Well, the entire G-Graspers organization appears to be about 4 rooms, so...
I love when they showed that office, where now if you were watching like a James Bond or a current Godzilla movie, the office would be like so sleek, and they walk into that office, and they're like, whoa, yeah, looking good. And it's just like 4 rooms.
I know that I don't want to like hate on stuff that's purely budgetary, but like
sure, yeah.
But this goes beyond budgetary. Like what a drab looking place. Like if you have a secret task force against Godzilla with all this cool technology, like it looks like a gray concrete inner city school classroom. Like it's with like some blue trim. Like it's really. I don't know. It was. I found this whole movie to be very drab.
I feel like the trope is like, yeah, like you enter through some like secret grungy looking door in like an abandoned building, and you go down. It's like some ultra secret, ultra sleek lab, and I feel like they were going for that, but it didn't really communicate that the entrance was like secret, so it just felt like a really shitty entrance. It just felt like they were walking through this door that's just like not nice into this building that's like bad, and then they go downstairs and there's like a slightly higher quality lab than like what you'd expect from above, but like still not great. And so it feels like that's what they were going for, and it was just like whoop, did not work.
Well, you can do the reverse. Like again, like I don't want to be a hater, guys, but like it can be just a regular boring office building, and that's the point, and that's like fun. Where you do the reverse, where you have like we need your password, we scan your retina, we do all this stuff, and then like the secret door opens and the iris door, and then it's just like a boring normal office, and they're like, oh yeah, we're a government agency, and like it can be. It doesn't have to be done as that much of a joke, but like it can be that. But like you gotta, it's just like have an idea, like it not just. I'm being a hater. I'm gonna go sleep, guys. Good night. I'm gonna go away now.
It's all right. It's all right. We want the genuine opinion.
Well,
I'll fight you. It's okay.
Wait, can we talk now about just a little bit more about just the science in general of this film? Because I loved when they were like, yeah, the black hole thing. So it's just a little big. We got to make it 2 meters. And the baseball guy goes, oh yeah, oh that makes sense. Sure, yeah, no problem. Like, what? They just breeze a black hole? What? And, like, they got to make it... How? They went over it like it was nothing.
When they test the black hole, it's, like, launched on the ground, but they're launching it from space. It has to be launched from space for some reason for the real thing. And it's like, well, clearly they don't have to do that. They can just launch it from something on the ground.
I love the bold, unafraid stupidity to shoot a black hole at Godzilla, not worrying about the fact that based on what we know of black holes, it would instantly get out of control. It would start swallowing everything and get bigger and bigger and destroy the Earth. I love that they don't care. They're like, let's just do it. And so that's...
Well, she says, like, I hope this doesn't damage the planet.
Yeah. This is why I'm on this movie's side, because it's like, even though it's trying to like appeal to the modern kids of the time, it didn't feel the need to be like hard sci-fi. I was like, whatever makes the most ridiculous, amusing situation we're gonna do. So I'm all for that.
I actually agree with you. I like, again, I'm that was that's probably my favorite thing about the movie, if I'm being honest, is trap Godzilla in a black hole, the shot from a satellite. That and like honestly, I was here for we need to lock onto your ship and you fly it at him, and like all that like felt honestly like that's kind of the kind of thing that a good blockbuster movie would have. Like that's like the end of that's like not far off from like a more ridiculous version of how Top Gun would end, like the new Top Gun. Like it's kind of there. Like some of the ideas weren't bad, and there was some kind of fun goofiness with the big showdown between Megaguirus and Godzilla as well, where like they went full wrestling at a certain point. But it's kind of just, to me, it was sort of just execution that was kind of lacking. It was like I kind of the black hole gun is so fun. It's not fun unless you do it fun. Like it's fun in theory, and I was a little disappointed on the execution front on a lot of that stuff. It doesn't have to look great. I'm not expecting that. It doesn't have to be expensive looking, but it just was kind of, everything felt really flat. Like, and kind of just like, Godzilla bit off the stinger. That could be really cool, but it's like it's done so slowly and awkwardly that it's not, awesome. It's like that could be awesome. And instead I'm kind of like, I feel like I'm watching them awkwardly go through like the blockings of the scene instead of actually just doing a moment. So
I loved when they first brought up the black hole gun. I was like, what a ridiculous but great concept to start off with. They bring it in like right in the first 10-15 minutes. I like the confidence that they were just like, a black hole, nothing can escape. And they don't feel the need to like so many actual blockbusters will be like, they'll show you the wormhole diagram with like the paper for like the millionth movie in a row, and they have to like explain to you again what the black hole is, and they're just like, no, it's a black hole. Kids who watch this movie probably think black holes are awesome. Yeah. But then like the golden rule of sci-fi here, right, is like sci-fi fantasy, like you create rules of the world, what's possible, and then you have to follow the rules. And so it's like, for me, like I don't care how unrealistic it is that they're going to launch a black hole from space, that they can do this, that this is going to trap Godzilla. But when they just blatantly like break their own rules all the time, that's where I started to be like, okay, there are some problems here, because the physics, like it doesn't line up with what they said. And if they say nothing can escape, even light, and at the end they're just like, well, he might have escaped, it's like, why is Godzilla able to escape a black hole and nothing else can? Like, you said that already. Or like, why does a wormhole happen one time, not the other time? So that was a bit of an issue.
That's very true.
I feel like I'm reading too much into it, even for what it is. But
it even reached a point where it was too much for me when it was like falling out of the sky and melting and falling apart, and it was still supposed to function. I was like, all right, you didn't need to amp it up this much. You didn't need to have it like right above Godzilla's head when it fires.
But like the test for the black hole. Go ahead.
There were two things there. One is, if this isn't actually a reason I didn't like the movie, but if it was actually orbiting, it wouldn't be falling straight down. It would be falling. Right. It probably would be on the other side. Statistically, most of the time it's going to be on the other side of the Earth. And but then the second part was, I was kind of hoping that it would fire, like 50 yards above Godzilla. Like that would be pretty cool. Like if it's falling and it just fires at the last possible moment. I was rooting for it. It didn't happen, but I was rooting for just crash a thing into Godzilla while it's firing. Just go all out.
Yeah.
Well, so like at the beginning, and the wormhole thing. First of all, the wormhole was like really underwhelming, the visual effects compared to like the black hole even. But it's like, okay, so the black hole test opens a wormhole and a prehistoric bug monster comes through. And then they know that, and they continue to use the black hole thing like multiple times, despite the fact that it could open up more wormholes and welcome in like more monsters. They use it like very indiscriminately the rest of the movie. And it's like, this is a problem with your technology. Like, and the government is like, yeah, we'll approve this.
Which is funny because they had like the perfect cover for it, which is that this government official needed to get rid of Godzilla as quickly as possible to hide the existence of the secret plasma program that was risking people's lives. So they could have had like people telling him all the time, like, this is so dangerous, we can't keep doing this. But he's like, no, we gotta. I'm in charge, we're gonna do it. But they didn't. They didn't lean into the excuse they had right there.
You're also, that's make me think the almost obvious ending, because you're totally right. If the rule is the black hole can be an entryway for other things. The obvious ending to the movie is the black hole takes Godzilla away and something worse comes out. Like, and then everyone just goes, and then that's the end. Like it's right there. Or just a Godzilla from another dimension that's just exactly the same but has like a flower on his head steps out.
I love that idea.
Why do they even need to get rid of Godzilla? And this was a problem for me. This was one of the biggest problems in the movie for me, was like, okay, so maybe there's bias here because I know what happens loosely in some other Godzilla movies, which is like he actually often ends up saving everyone from some other monster. So it's not like there is some like moral grayness here to Godzilla, but like, so Godzilla, destroyed the city a few years ago, killed a lot of people, and then walked into the ocean. And they say at some point, and then it's like, okay, maybe returns for the power, goes back in the ocean, and they're like, yeah, he's been in the ocean for years now. Like, we don't know what happened. And it's like, okay, they just let him be. Like, why do you need to lure him back to the surface and cause a bunch more people to die with black holes and like various missiles and like nuclear power and wormholes? And it's just like, just let him stay underwater. If you didn't want to destroy him, you wouldn't have built the plasma that could bring him back. Like, it's just like, why do you need to kill Godzilla? It's not going to happen. Why are you firing rockets at him? You know they're going to do nothing to him. Like, I was just like, you guys are the worst at fighting Godzilla, and it's your job. But it's pretty cool that their job is literally like fight Godzilla.
It was almost there. It could have made enough sense if they played up the villain more and like his desperation to enrich himself in Japan and willing to put things at risk for that. Because that even plays into like big Godzilla series themes. So, using technology for exploitation instead of to help people and to live alongside nature. But it's all, like Sam said, it's in the execution. It gets fumbled, but it's almost there. It's enough for me as a Godzilla fan to like gloss over it, but I can see why you guys don't.
And what did you think about, the monsters in the movie? Let's chat looks, let's chat vibes.
Let's do it. Did you guys recognize the return of a favorite from Rodan?
Certainly the name. We did have many a joke about Nenegulons.
Yes. Do kids still say negging? Is that still a thing 5 years later?
Why are you asking us?
I don't know. Anyway, the first time these monsters popped up, I kept mispronouncing it Menegulon. And then we went off on a joke about how they were negging people. Anyway. I really love the horror sequence when the couple is attacked. It's actually really well done, I think.
I thought so too. And it was also, I feel like that was a moment where I'm like, oh, they're zooming in on these characters. They're having such a specific moment together. And it felt like more specific in particular than most of the movie. But I did think it was well done and gruesome and fucking brutal. They were like, not only are we going to have him slime him, then it's going to fucking stab their eyeballs with its, insect hands. And then it's going to shake their head around. It was really long.
It scared the hell out of me as a kid.
Oh yeah. I also, as maybe you can also relate, as someone who lives in New York, just a bug that so closely resembled a cockroach and those little cockroachy wings, and that whole part when it fucking crawled up on the wall and was like. As anyone who has ever had the experience of being in their apartment and being like, oh my God, is that a shadow on the ground or is that something else? I hated that whole, I was like, I don't know if I can watch the movie. I might just have to be done now.
The week before I proposed to Mac, we discovered, my old roommate and I discovered cockroaches in our kitchen, and they were nesting in the motor of the refrigerator.
Ooh.
So and so we had to get the house sprayed, and it meant like the weekend I was going to propose to her and also then go on like a trip up to like Arrowhead. Like that was the weekend. Like the 3 days leading up to it, it was just like moving everything out of all the rooms that would get sprayed. And I just remember like it being the weirdest thing of like, I can't believe I have to do this, late into the night after working and cover all this stuff in plastic. Also, I'm proposing apparently, but also there are tiny cockroaches everywhere.
Ew. Oh, I'm so sorry. So gross.
There were some great shots of just the reveal of the Mega Newlons crawling on the walls, or like when they're driving the boat and looking around for them, and then they're all like stuck to the shady side of the skyscraper. That was a good reveal.
Yeah, and really it metamorphosizing was just like so gross. They were almost scarier to me in their smaller form. I liked the egg too. I thought the egg looked fucking cool, whatever they were doing with that egg whenever they showed it.
Yeah.
And the city, okay, I forgot about the city being under, like that was some cool stuff we haven't
Tokyo
seen
being
too
flooded.
much.
Yeah,
and them having to kind of rescue and go under. I thought that was cool.
It was funny that the way that just the jump to, hey, Tokyo's underwater was just a newscaster saying, Tokyo's underwater now, and we just see it. And it's just like, oh, okay. Yeah, all right, we're in there. We're flooded.
I feel like that's a budgetary thing. Didn't have the money to shoot bugs like opening up the sewers and flooding the city.
No, a few more lines of dialogue could have helped too.
But that reminds me, when I write the synopsis for these episodes, I look at the Wikipedia to see if I missed anything and remind me of stuff. But this time it didn't help at all, because whoever wrote it like skipped over most of the key plot points, but they wrote 3 full paragraphs giving a play-by-play of the scene where the couple gets attacked.
I was going to say the same thing. I was going to call the same thing out. I was going to be like, whoever wrote this Wikipedia piece was fucking obsessed with that scene. It's like all the thing it is.
The paragraph break was hilarious, because it's like,
oh my God, I love
the synopsis is only 5 paragraphs, but there is a paragraph break where it's like, oh yeah, horse scene. Then the girl shows up. New paragraph. Yeah, she shows up, and I had the same thing, because I sometimes check the synopsis mid movie to be like, I'm catching on. I'm picking up what they're putting down, right? And no, it didn't help at all. I did remember that scene, and I'm glad, because didn't even need those 3 paragraphs.
Yeah.
And also, the woman, he also was like, he was writing a script. He's like, the woman nervously drops the headphone. He's like writing the. So good.
So the scene where he's fighting, and again, I haven't watched a lot of these, but like the scene where he's fighting the swarm, it's Godzilla versus the swarm. That was interesting, because I was like, I've never seen, I guess, an analog to like, oh yeah, so this giant monster has to fight like this kind of swarm, and I was like, that actually feels like, okay, that's a challenge for Godzilla. That's like not Godzilla's bread and butter. Fighting enemies everywhere is like very different from like fighting the one bug, and I almost felt like that battle felt like more of a challenge for Godzilla than just the one bug, or like when it's just the one bug, if they had the swarm there too, that would be cool.
Yeah.
It felt like the end battle was like less interesting, even though it was like kind of sexual in a weird way too. Like there's like this whole thing, like we just get these like close-up shots of this like appendage is just like penetrating Godzilla, and I was just like, this feels on purpose right now. This doesn't feel like they just accidentally made it look like this, and then Godzilla like bites off the tip, and I was like,
yeah. I normally, when people say like they think the monster fights look like monster sex, I'm like, whatever, you're not using your imagination, you're an adult, you want to laugh at this, yada yada yada. But in this one, I get it. There were several shots where it looked distinctly sexual, even outside of Godzilla continually getting shafted by the stinger.
And look, it gets your attention.
Yeah.
Like, if that was their goal, it like gets the audience's attention, you know?
It was very Alien in that a feminine monster kept entering Godzilla. But anyway, Sam.
No, there's something, I kind of agree with Zach that there's something visceral, where I watch Godzilla get swarmed by a million little bugs, and I know how Godzilla feels right now. Like there's a visceral quality to it. However, it is very kind of him to us, the viewer of Godzilla, to forget that he has nuclear breath until it seems like there's a bit of a fight, and then he just turns it on and wins. It's like, it was funny to me that he got to he let them suck some of his energy first. He kind of twirled around, and then he goes, all right, I'm gonna breathe some nuke.
I'll defend that, because he starts having trouble when they're all over him, and then the breath's not going to do anything to hit them. So he has to like think like, all right, I got to charge up and get really hot so that they come off of me, and then I can get them with the breath. So there's a little bit of internal logic to them.
I counted the charge up as part of it. I think it just kind of felt like the that fight in the one of the Matrix movies where Neo fights a million guys until he's about to lose, and then he flies away. Like it was kind of like that for me. I was kind of like, oh, you could have done that, but all right, it is fair enough.
Yeah, I do love the Megaguirus fight though. There's so many great, amusing moments. Even if you're right, the stinger bite should be quicker. That's cool. I like the part when Megaguirus drops the pyramid on Godzilla from the building.
I like when he gets like a good bop on the head, or Godzilla bops. There's some point where one of them bops the other on the head. I always love that. Yeah. There's a good jump shot.
Yeah, he does the big body slam.
I love that jump shot. Every movie they bring it in.
No, there was a lot of also like them emoting. Like again, it got really, really theatrical and wrestly, where like Godzilla picks himself up and does like a like he shakes out, like he shakes off the hurt, and and Megaguirus has a few like might as well hold up his hand and summon with his fingers, like come at me, like there's a lot of that. However, I still think all that was so funky, and it's, I don't know, I just didn't, none of it like I liked it all in theory, and again, it wasn't just that it wasn't quick enough. I was just like, boy, this is like so sloppy, and it was, I liked it more, like the ideas were okay. I wasn't like enthralled by it though.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the real pain of having a low budget and a tight schedule for this is they have to shoot it as soon as they set it up, and unless it's totally fucked up, they don't get to do it again. And so everything, they don't get to play around. Everything is the first version. So this is where you got to use your imagination as a monster movie viewer.
I kind of don't. I don't want to give it that though, because maybe I'm putting a lot of pressure on this next one. But like, we saw what a competent filmmaker did with that Gamma movie, and it's not like he's Spielberg. Like just to have ideas, and I'm it's cool to be like, oh, it's fast, but like when like to me with my own ways of thinking about movies, I just go, there like so much that's just like, it feels kind of incoherent, and where like I kind of can't. None of it feels the way I want to feel in a moment.
I didn't feel the stakes of it. I feel like sometimes I feel the stakes of it. Not always, but this one just felt like boop, and then boop. Like, yeah.
It's true. It's kind of interesting because this time the monster fight is the complication, not the climax of the movie. The climax is all the Dimension Tide stuff, which is kind of cool through the early acts, because I like the parallel development of the plots. It reminds me of King Kong versus Godzilla, where you're getting hyped up for the conflict from these different things happening. But yeah, when it hits the 2/3 mark, you realize like, oh, the only story impact Megaguirus had was knocking the Dimension Tide out of orbit. And that was the entire plot purpose of her being there. And then she's out of it.
Yeah, I've got to say, and I know this is probably like a very controversial opinion, the monster fights were like some of the parts where I kind of zoned out a little bit in the movie. Like I was honestly more engaged with some of the drama and stuff. And like, I'm not, again, it's not to say that the monster fights were worse. It's just about like, I don't know. It was like there was a lot happening. I was surprised by how much was happening, like plot wise, character wise, even if it wasn't necessarily like all the best written or anything. It was like they're packing in a lot of stuff for the runtime. And the monster fights was like I was seeing like in that final fight there were like several not just shots but like sequences that were essentially reused. Maybe some shots that were literally reused, but to the point where like because you know it's like the wings start flapping really fast, and then there's the shot where Godzilla like turns, and then there's like you see Godzilla and the bug thing like flies behind it, and Godzilla doesn't know where it is at first and turns, and there's the bug thing. And it's like, yeah, like in one version the bug is way farther back, or the bug's doing something different in the back. But it was like, for a moment, I actually checked to make sure I didn't rewind by accident. And so it's like there's none of that repetition, I feel like, in the rest of the movie. And just really quick, another thing I just saw is like, I looked on the IMDb, the runtime is like like almost 20 minutes shorter in the version they released on TV in the US.
Yeah.
That's kind of interesting. I wonder what they cut from this to make it like it says 88 minutes only for the TV version. I wonder like
I'm
what
not
plot
sure
points they had to
actually.
take out.
It's not well recorded because it's only the TV version that they made the cuts in. The only thing I know is that in the dub, which I'm surprised none of you have brought up yet, because it's the one thing I do know about the dub. There's a scene where Kudo says, "We're going to make Godzilla disappear up his own butthole."
I caught that scene.
In the TV version, they changed it to disappear up his own black hole, but they just cut in black hole from a different line in the movie.
That rocks.
Oh, yeah. That's a bummer, because the butthole line was kind of funny.
It's interesting that the TV version is 20 minutes shorter, because actually in the director's cut, that freeze frame at the end is over 20 minutes longer.
Also, guys, we haven't spoken yet about my favorite scene in the film, but Ryan, you go first if you have something to speak about for the fight.
I guess I was just going to, for one last specific call out, I love like the samurai style thing where he slices off the claw by tilting his spine up. I was like, that's a great bit.
His spikes were looking extra good this movie.
Yeah. I like to play up my character, but sometimes I do get bored by the monster fights when they're longer and they're largely like Godzilla getting knocked down and then he'll knock the other monster down. But this one I felt like had a lot of like unique little moments and like different kind of attacks and setups. And it's true that Megaguirus did like to dive back and forth. I see what you're talking about with the repetition, but there was enough like variety and fun to it that I thoroughly enjoyed it.
It was maybe more the slow-mos for me that I was like, do we got to do another slow-mo shot of his reaction getting up off the ground?
That was weird. Actually, I'll call that out. Those.
And they did it like 7 times.
Are you talking about the Megaguirus vision where it looked like a late 90s rap video?
Yeah.
There's something I'm not totally sure if this is what it was, but like right around the early 2000s, something about digital editing got, you know, some new tools opened up, and you see just a lot of that in the early 2000s of like, not that they shot the thing in slow motion, but just that you know, just stretch something out, you get, you know, the frame rate dips, you know, there's a ton of it like Gladiator and stuff too. Like it's just kind of, you know, to me, it's like, it feels very of that time, but it was just weird when it's like, it's one thing to have that in like a, you know, a moment of someone swinging a sword and we're kind of, you know, I'm using that as a Gladiator thing, you know, and they're kind of close to us and it's kind of like, oh, it's a style thing. This was like just a wide shot of Godzilla in the distance. It's like, why do we need this twice as long? This is crazy.
Yeah, I agree.
It did not serve its purpose because you guys didn't get it, but it's supposed to be showing Megaguirus move so fast. This is how she sees Godzilla. She sees him moving
right
slowly.
over my head.
Megaguirus' vision drops in frame rate.
Yeah. So she sees Godzilla as moving so slowly, he's in a bad frame rate.
Yeah, okay, I got you.
I was like, that is having fun. But guys, the best scene of the movie. Okay, they're on, you know, I love whenever they're on the ocean, any movie, I always love it, love Deep Blue Sea, but they're in the boat, they're in the rescue boat, and then it's like, oh no, Godzilla's under them, and then the one guy gets up in the helicopter, and then she has to do her cool tech she has. She does her little floaty device, her little breath thing. She's got all the tech. She's prepared. Godzilla comes up. She gets knocked out. She decides, you know what? The move here is to climb onto Godzilla. That is what I must do right now. And I'm going to do it. And she fucking does it. Shoots his little,
the tracker.
And then they're like, oh my God, how are you? And she's like, yo, I'm tracking him now. So casual. She was just so casual about it. And I don't know. I thought that this movie would make like a good video game for that part. I thought that'd be a good challenge to have in it.
Yeah.
Well, similarly, the question I had was, so at the end, she guides the track, the track by Generation Tide, whatever it's called, guides it by flying her ship toward Godzilla and then ejects at the last second. And I was like, oh yeah, and she's gonna eject. She parachutes down. No, like ejecting parachute.
Oh, yeah.
Situation. But am I to believe that she didn't have a parachute and she just happened to land in a small pool?
No, it's a quick shot, but you do see her with the parachute coming behind her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I did, because she's in a pool with no parachute, and I go, wait, was she gonna die and just got lucky here? Like, because that's very funny. But okay.
Again,
cool.
as you guys said, bad editing, but yes, she does have the parachute on her when she comes down in the pool.
She's a great, special task force leader, because she's got all the tricks up her sleeve.
I was gonna ask, Joanna, how did you feel anything at having the first like unambiguous like action star female protagonist in any of these movies?
I liked her, but I just wish they gave her like a little bit more of life around her to really fill her out as the main character, other than her purely having this dog tag that they keep showing over and over and over and over. But again, that bazooka shot at the beginning, great, fantastic, so fun.
Yeah.
Loved it.
That's a great way to kick the movie off. I actually love that sequence where Godzilla's like trying to squirm into the alley. That's a really well done bit. And
I loved their costumes. I hated the name of the Dream Graspers, but I loved their blue little outfits.
They do have wonderful outfits.
On the subject of this being a good video game, I'm a sucker for movies trying to dramatize hacking, because there's that little sequence of the guy piloting his little avatar through the code.
So fun, so cute. I loved it. Another favorite part of the movie for me.
Mm-hmm.
I want to love it, but it's so creepy that he made like a little fetishized nurse avatar of this woman he knows in real life. And I'm pretty sure he didn't ask her.
But I don't know. That's the part of the kookiness we were missing.
I did not pick up on that detail. That is,
It just made sense for his character.
It did. Yeah. It doesn't come up at first, but later, like, the dopey engineer, or I guess the guy who is dubbed dopey in your version, looks over his shoulder and is like, "The Major? Kiriko?" It's like a reveal that he styled it after her. Anyway, go ahead.
I was going to say, I take back what I said earlier about the budget. I actually feel like, like $8 million to make this. I could see where it went. I feel like, considering even if the effects weren't all super good, they did have like multiple kinds of effects. On IMDb, it's saying that there was like a bunch of companies. The only people, like IMDb often does not list everyone, because like someone has to go list them, and and so it's like all the people who are listed here. There's like one producer listed, there's like a couple people, and then there's like a ton of people who did visual effects. Yeah. So that really is like an emphasis here. And I mean, like one of the most shocking parts, honestly, of like, making like even just short films was realizing how expensive it is. Like that the money is not in equipment or effects. It's like you need to feed everyone. You need Ubers or taxis or transportation, and it's like that is hundreds of dollars a day, thousands of dollars a day, and that's even if you're like not paying anyone, and then if you're paying them, and so it's like,
honestly, they do what they can with the money and time available to them.
Yeah,
that's what our t-shirts are gonna say for the live show. They do what they can.
And that's about us.
Yeah.
Just to throw a, I've been negative this whole time, but one thing that to me was, I actually like a situation where I did feel like it was a good idea in spite of the budget, or the budget was clearly a consideration, but I still kind of dig the idea, is the way that they treated the black hole firing, where you see again a kind of goofy version of this, but like clouds kind of getting sucked in this kind of like ethereal portal looking thing, like looking straight into it is fun. Like that's an idea, and that's like I was kind of charmed by it, even if it was a little bit. That was a video game cinematic looking situation, but like, but again, it was an idea, and it and they kind of like the music they used and the sound they used. It's like there's it's very clear what they're going for there, and has a little creativity and flair.
One other thing that struck me that's kind of unrelated to whatever we've said. I don't think it speaks to whether this is good or bad or whatever, but like I had heard, it said like, okay, like Godzilla is kind of about like the atomic bombs dropped on Japan, and like I guess like I never actually got that until this movie, because of course like the Western versions don't tap into that, and I don't even know how much of it is like really intentional versus just like cultural imagery at this point. But it's like talking about like the city being destroyed and then showing like traumatic flashbacks showing the pictures of people who are missing, the way that they like the black hole test, even though it's a black hole, it looks like a nuclear test. Multiple scenes of like huge white light emerging from like the city, like there's like a nuclear bomb. I mean, of course Godzilla too, but like also their complicated relationship with it, like Japan's relationship to what was done to them at the end of the war like is complicated, and I don't know, like I don't know how whether to say that was really intentional, but it was just like a cultural context that like I'd heard referenced before, but I never actually saw or felt until watching this, and I was kind of surprised by that.
Yeah, and I mean this is a light touch in comparison, Zach. You gotta watch the original. It's
you should
good.
Watch the original. It's really good.
And that's really where it comes down to, is it's all descended from that story. But yeah, I agree. There's intentional comparisons. One thing I don't want to leave without talking about is the score, because I love it. It's the composer is Michiru Otoshima? Oh, no, just Michiru Oshima, who is probably the most significant female contributor to the Godzilla series, like it or not. But she came up with a beautiful Godzilla theme that I think it's the only one that stacks up to the classic Ufukube version for me. She does a couple more in this series, and they only get better from here. And with that all said, let's go to the judgments. As Godzillavangelists, it is our holy duty to assign each movie its proper place in the Godzilla afterlife, whether that be the best in heaven, purgatory in the middle, or hell at the bottom. So it's time to judge Godzilla vs. Megaguirus. I feel like it's been a minute since I went first, so I will do that. It's definitely not a great movie, but I was pleasantly surprised at how much I was on board. I was not bored. I was able to pay attention and enjoy the movie, even if the execution is not good throughout. It has a lot of good ideas. It has a very tiny character arc, as we talked about. Fun monster battle. So, sure, it's not a high heaven, but I'll give it heaven.
Heaven?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'll go second.
Okay.
I think that the characters are, you're right, more solid than average, if not my favorite. And and there are like inklings of some good ideas, but I found it to be pretty just kind of tired. I just wasn't it. I got about halfway through this and I went, boy, this series just feels like it needs a refresh or a shakeup or a something, because I've it was, I'd say it's pretty similar to the way we felt about the previous one and the one before this, and the last one I gave a purgatory because I was the mild defender of some of it, even though I overall wasn't very good. And when we do our regrade, it's going to hell because it's not a heaven, and I feel the same way about this one. But because Ryan just gave it a heaven, and I'm trying to just be the equalizer here, I'm going to go ahead and put it in hell now.
Oh, good. Okay. Phew.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna go put it in hell. It's never gonna be a heaven for me. The series needs some ideas, and I'm putting a lot of hope in our Gamera guy, whose name I'm blanking on, to give us a little something, because I was pretty unimpressed.
Well, I hope he doesn't let you down. I certainly really like the next one. Joanna, where do you put it?
Oh my God, Sam! I thought, because you spent so much of this episode apologizing for being mean to the movie, I thought you were going to end in purgatory. Yeah, I'm tired of living in the middle in purgatory, so this one's going to hell for me. No way is it a heaven. I loved the setup of it. I thought I loved the dimension tide idea. We got to make the black hole 2 meters. She's hopping on his spikes in the ocean, a lot of fun stuff going on, but the chemistry of it just didn't last, and none of it stuck and really like worked in a cohesive way for me. And I didn't like the big bug. I just didn't like it. I wasn't into it. If you're gonna have a big bug, let's have a song, have a theme song, have some twins.
Yeah.
Just thought
I never thought you'd be asking for Mothra back, but thank you,
there
Joanna.
was not nearly enough lore around this bug for me to be convinced by it, and it also was not a dragonfly; it was a cockroach. For most of its
was
life.
Funny. Also, because dragonflies are really scary looking up close. And
but they're also pretty. They also have beautiful colors. Like this, again, just wasn't about it. So it's going to hell. But I did just read, I should have stayed for the after credits, because apparently my little boy shows up again, and there's at his school, and there's an earthquake and Godzilla roars. I missed that, but I would have been happy to see it. But yeah, just I wouldn't watch it again. So to hell.
Fair enough. Take us home, Zach.
You know what? I'm gonna send it to heaven too. I'm gonna put it in heaven.
Yeah.
Wait, rewatch the original and then let us know.
I've never seen the original actually, so yeah. But look, like I don't have the same like breadth of experience here, so this is coming from someone who like I don't know what the norm is for putting something in what category here. But I think it did a lot with what it had. I feel like it had a surprising amount of heart. It had there was passion behind it. The idea is it could have been so much drier, so much more formulaic. Like they actually tried, and it felt like the corniness, a lot of it was self-aware, which is a big plus for me. So I'm not saying it was good, but I'm putting it in heaven because it was enjoyable for me as someone who's new to Godzilla. I liked it more than I expected to. I thought there was more going for it than I thought there would be. And yeah, so I for some reason I feel like I should be defending this movie a little bit.
I feel like we've been getting that. Ryan, maybe you've just shown us too many movies, and me and Sam are cold, bitter, and numb now, because anyone who sees these for the first time, they're like, it's so fun and kooky and there's heart, and we are not compared to those 60s film, we've just seen too much.
You guys definitely have gotten jaded. I was hoping you would come through the end of the tunnel and come to where I am, where you start to really appreciate the little differences and the nuances and see it all in scope. And for a moment, I thought you were. But now it seems like you guys are having a hard time getting out of a tunnel. You're like a dog that someone threw a blanket over and you can't figure out how to get out.
Well, it's more like you've thrown like 40 blankets over us. And each blanket is it's like someone had it's technically a blanket, but it's not a very well made blanket. No, I'm totally kidding.
God damn it, Sam! You're really leaning into your evil rule on this one.
No, and to be fair, I think there is truth to when you see this many. you start to feel that way. And also, like, we're just calling him as we see him in the moment. You know, we're like as people who aren't fans of these, like, if it was just if I mean, I've been going on my grade being purely nothing other than how much would I want to see it again, and like my heaven may end up being kind of small, but it doesn't mean that, like, if someone was a Godzilla fan, I would say you probably should watch almost all. You know, there are very few where I would say don't watch it if you're into Godzilla, and this certainly isn't that. Like, you know, it's perfectly reasonable to like it. It just wasn't something that, like, seeing him cold the first time, I go, boy, I am just so into this. Like, you know, I just was, it just kind of washed over me a little bit. So my heaven's going to be, you know, movies that I would at least put on in the background of a party silently.
My heaven is going to have movies with two kooky characters figuring it out. There are going to be aliens in fun outfits. You know, there's just more that can be thrown into the mix. But
I agree with Joanna. I would not send the bug to heaven. I think the bug was like, okay. I really was expecting more from the bug. And like I haven't really seen it. I haven't seen a movie with Mothra, but like I've definitely heard about Mothra. And it just feels like this is not the same level. I would be surprised if there was like a bunch of movies with this specific villain. But to me, like, that wasn't the core of the movie. You know, like, that's not really what the movie was about. Like, the title has to say Godzilla versus whoever. But to me, it was like, it was about the energy and it was about the dimensional rift. And I think that's both like a pro for me and also a con, because it's like, you know, I feel like they really weren't that concerned with like what the monster was, and they kind of half-assed the monster, and that was like, it's like you shouldn't half-ass the monster in a Godzilla movie.
Right. And I do think once you see a few more, the heart in some of them, like comparatively to some of the earlier, like there's just some layers of it, and I think it's fun to see from seeing it the first time, but then compared to, again, the 800 that we've seen, there are some others that just have a little more of it. Brian shaking his head every time I add a number to the list.
I will.
But watch the original, for real. Watch the original.
Yeah,
like,
I will. I'll get on that.
That was a rare straight flush heaven for us. I think that's, and honestly, maybe the only, like, boy, I'm gonna get myself into trouble. If it was like movie heaven. Like, you know, there's a very select number of movies that get to go to heaven, and this isn't just a Godzilla podcast. Like, that's the one that has a shot at being in movie heaven. Yeah. You know, we're like, oh, there's something, this is like one that you should see, you know, so that's a, you know, a hearty recommend on any level.
Much as I hate to admit it, but I will defend Megaguirus. I think she's good enough to hold down one movie, but I'm not surprised she hasn't reappeared.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
For once, I have something to plug first.
Woo!
My friend and I, Matt Charles, been on the podcast many times. We are finishing up a D&D campaign that we've been working on for years, a book, and it's a great adventure called Heroes of Green Hollow. Look for that, Heroes of Green Hollow, search it up on Google. And you'll find it. I'll also share it on the socials. So it's about to come out by the time you hear this episode. So sign up for our mailing list. I could really use your support on that.
Cool, that is fun.
But
Ryan,
yes,
real missed opportunity not to call it D&D grabbers.
What?
Wait, was it graspers? Damn it! I messed up my own joke.
Damn it, Sam.
You sure
I'm
did.
sorry. It is. I know. It made it even grosser sounding than I intended it to be. Though I was intending to be a little gross. D&D graspers.
At least you didn't say G pumpers. But Zach, thank you for being here. Do you have anything to plug for our lovely audience?
Oh yeah, totally. I recently completed a short film that I was working on for the past year called Acid Noir. It's really cool. It's not out for the public yet, sadly, because we're trying to circulate it first.
Mm-hmm.
But I have the previous one is like a short surreal horror film. It's called Sleepyhead, and that one you can just look up. It's on Vimeo. It's on YouTube. Kind of Lynchian. I think it's really fun, and I think it's the only. I don't know. I think it might be the first horror movie that involves coffee as part of the horror. Not in the way you'd expect. But I think check it out. Take a look.
Okay, sleepyhead.
And I also just want to throw something out there really quick, which is that Ryan, I just want to reference Percival Heat really quick. So in high school in Virginia, where I met Ryan, we were in physics class together, and we had to we were in assigned teams. We had to make like a little movie to explain a physics concept. And so we made a 4-part, Ryan directed this, and I was in it, and we had like a 4-part thing called Percival Heat, Percival being the town where we were in high school, and it was like a cop drama from the 80s. And I just want to say, like, in the last episode, I'm the villain, and I bring out like my pet dinosaur to attack them, and it's like a forced perspective, like dinosaur toy monster, and in retrospect very Godzilla-ish. And this was actually somehow used to explain centrifugal force. I don't remember how it explains centrifugal force, but I just wanted to share that tidbit. Like, the fact that Ryan and I have made a movie with a forced perspective dinosaur, I think is something really special.
Yeah, wow, Ryan, this hasn't come up before.
That's true.
This is great to share.
But thank you so much for having me on here, guys. I had a blast.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah,
Your
thank
first
you so much for being
podcast.
on. And if you have that video,
Please share it. The
we really
fans
wanna
will want to
see
see.
It's not
You might have
public,
to ask Ryan, but
I'll share it with
why
you
not,
guys.
Ryan? Why not public?
Yeah.
It's for a reason I can't say on air.
Okay.
But I will share it with you.
Yeah, now I just went through a Rolodex of the worst things that could be in that movie. And
I'm just Googling images of Percival, Virginia right now. Very cute. Very cute little town.
Isn't it, though?
Precious.
Well, we really need more letters and reviews, so everybody beg again with me, please. Please send us letters and messages and reviews.
please like us.
Please, sir, I want some more.
So all I have today is a comment on our YouTube video for the Godzilla vs. James Bond movie draft. And this is from commenter Shashank Shekhar. What the fuck with 3Ks?
That's
What
awesome.
does that mean?
I don't know.
I'm sorry. James Bond versus Godzilla.
Yeah, this was a fun episode. We
Yeah.
made
Because
movies
not
and-
with 3Ks, but the first thought in my head also is what the fuck.
It was really fun. We did a game where we drafted Godzilla and James Bond movie elements and wrote our own crossover script and pitched it to Sam's wife. It's really fun. Go listen to
Whose
it.
script won again? Did mine?
Mine.
No, I don't
It
think
was
so.
mine.
God damn it. I loved mine, though.
Yours was great. I had serious competition from the three of you guys.
No, none of those scripts lost in the sense that they all had something going for them.
They were all pretty
However,
solid.
we did technically lose also.
Yeah, well, I won in my head and my memory, so
Yeah.
that's enough for me.
Well, anyways, in the meantime, keep spreading the word of Godzilla. If you don't want to write us a letter, at least share us with your friends, family, people who like strange movies, cult movies, monster movies. They'll all enjoy this. Please tell them about it. And in the meantime, keep spreading the word of Godzilla.
Thank you, and good night.
Goodbye. Godzillavangelists, a Geek Stew Network podcast, is brought to you by me, Ryan Sargent, and my friends Joanna Brodecki and Sam Schlenker. This episode was edited by Brogan Malloy. All our incredible music is composed by Robert Mai, and our wonderful artwork is drawn by Cassidy Stone. Special thanks to our families, friends, and the wonderful artists who made the movies we talked about today. Godzillavangelists is a satirical, critical work not affiliated or endorsed by Toho, Legendary Pictures, or anyone behind the Godzilla series. Visit our website at godzillavangelists.com. We're also on Twitter at GodzillaCast and Instagram at GodzillaVangelists. If you prefer to listen to us online, we have a YouTube channel. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope you join us next time. In the meantime, keep spreading the word of Godzilla.